It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Rabbi Bokov. We're here in Johannesburg. And Rav, it's amazing when I spoke to you and you mentioned that your father was in Shanghai.
Yes.
And he got a Sugihara visa. So could you tell, because it's so important for Am Yisrael, for our nation to know, Karasatov, for the people that were Chasidei Motolam, that sacrificed so much. Could you give us a background where your family comes from, how they managed to land up in Shanghai,
Okay.
and the history?
Okay. My father, Zichroni Levrocha, who is a Talmid of Nevarodok Yeshivas, together with a group of Nevarodok, he, towards the beginning of the war, he was in Vilna. How he managed to get the visas, I don't know. He didn't speak much. When we were sitting Shiva for my father, Zichroni Levrocha, all of our friends who were from the Mirror Minyan, and we were close to all of the Shanghai, they came and they sat and we were reminiscing. And each and every one of our friends, their parents were Shanghai, said that their parents never spoke about what happened, how it developed. And we were all taken aback. No one really knew much of what happened. Maybe it was too painful. Maybe they tried to remove the terrible pain of the war and their escape from Europe. They didn't want to speak about it. Many stories have come about through my cousin, my father's nephew, Rabbi Avram Krupnik, Zichroni Levrocha, and we picked up small bits and pieces of what happened. I just know that my father he took the last boat from Vladivostok to Kobe, Japan, and that was his first.
Went to Tsuruga and then from Tsuruga to Kobe.
Well, he told me that the
Rav,
ship was.
You have an original passport, Polish.
Yeah. Oh, my father was born in Ruble, which was then Poland. It was Poland then, and this is the Shanghai identity card with his name on it and his picture. Here's the Chinese writing. We have it. Of course, we don't understand much about this and what it represented, but these were the.
This is the original.
Yes, this is the original.
And that is the residence certificate from Shanghai.
Residence certificate from Shanghai, yes. Yeah.
It's amazing that you kept it all these years.
Yeah, it was in my father's possession, and when he passed on, he even has the address 599 Tongshan Road, House 48 in Shanghai.
Did he discuss that he learned in the Mir Yeshiva when he was there?
Well, he learned to be Alastok. His Rabbi was Rabbi Avrom Yafen of Nevarodok, and we had a very close kesher. It was one of the Talmidei Bosikim of the Rosh Yeshiva, and family friends, Rav Faskowitz, Rav Nekritz. We used to go to Beis Yosef in Borough Park and visit the Rosh Yeshiva. He was at all our bar mitzvahs, and it also included Reb Shmuel Valken, Zichroni Levrocha. He was at our bar mitzvahs. He spoke. We remember him. He used to come to our house. We would visit them, and they were family friends. In any case, they didn't speak much about what happened. My mother also escaped Berlin before 1939. The Gestapo came to take my grandfather, Father Basholem, and they immediately left. They took a boat or a ship to Italy. From Italy, they came to Shanghai, China. My mother was very young, and she was a Yeshiva. Her mother died and buried in Shanghai. She died of typhus. My grandfather was an alman, and my mother was taken with her by Rav Rogov. Rav Rogov was her Unterführer and made the shidduch with my father. I think it was in 1945, and we have pictures.
And they were married in Shanghai.
They were married in Shanghai, and my Reb Chaim was my father's Unterführer. It seems that my father, although he was in Bialystok, he was with the Mir, and he was together with, and he did a lot of work for Reb Chaim. He was a ben bayis by Reb Chaim, and I remember whenever he went to Eretz Yisrael, he would come to Etel, to Reb Nochum's house, and I subsequently learned in the Mir Yeshiva as well, and I was also a ben bayis by Reb Chaim. I was there for about 2 years, and there was a closeness in the family.
So you knew Reb Chaim Shmulevitz?
Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, yes. I used to sit with him in the house and speak to the Rebbitzin.
His daughter married Reb Yitzhak Ezrachi.
Yes, of course. I remember Reb Yitzhak. I'm talking about 1970, 71,
and
72.
And Reb Yitzhak's brother Uri?
Uri I didn't know.
So Uri's in Beit Vegan. I'm very close to the family.
Reb Baruch Ezrachi we also knew, met, but that was the extent of our... My mother used to be... when she came to Yerushalayim, it was always, the first visit was by the Rebbitzin, by Reb Chaim, in the house. And we have pictures of the Sheva Brochus, of the Shanghai Rov, Reb Ashkenazi, and Reb Chaim speaking at his Sheva Brochus. Yeah, and that picture is actually printed in one of the books. In one of the books that were printed, maybe it's the Art Scroll book, I don't know, or Shanghai, the book Shanghai.
Is the book Escape to Shanghai? Escape
to Shanghai, I think that's what it. But I subsequently saw the pictures are there as well. At my father's shiva, my cousin told me that he heard from his father, Rabbi Avram Krupnik, that my father was instrumental in saving Reb Chaim's life. How? Because Reb Chaim used to deal with the Rosh Yeshiva. He got a lot of money, dollars from the joint, from the United States, and he was instrumental in supporting the Baratzola. And once the police were coming, the Japanese police were coming, and it was a capital crime for anyone to have American dollars because they were the enemy. So my father ran in. That's what he told me. I don't know. I've never heard it from my father. He ran in my father, and he took all the money from Reb Chaim. So when the Japanese police came in and searched him, he was innocent. He didn't have it. But my father suspected that he was going to be searched by the police, and he took the money away. And so, by doing that, I guess he saved his life. That's what was said, but we never heard anything from my father. And if we mentioned something that we heard such and such a story, my father would say, this is Baba Maisis.
Was your family close with Rabbi Kalmanovitz? He was,
yes,
he was very instrumental in obtaining the money for the Vadatzola.
We all learned in the Mir Yeshiva in New York, in Brooklyn, and Rabbi Avram Kalmanovitch was Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, was the Rosh Yeshiva. We saw him, we knew him. My father used to go in often and visit the yeshiva. He knew all the Rosh Yeshivas. And he was part of the group of the Mirror, the Alta Mirrors, they used to call them, the Alta Mirrors. And we spent summers together, we spent Shabbos together, even though my father was a Rov in Brighton Beach in Coney Island. Nevertheless, very often we used to be together with our friends, the children of the other Alter Mirrors. And we grew up and we went to Yeshiva together. That's how we knew. And you speak about Sammy Soroko, Shmuel Soroko. Yes, he was a family friend, and he was loved by us. We used to consider him like an uncle, and his children learned
he was
in the
he was in the Philippines, and
yes,
he was
I
stuck
know.
in
I
the
saw the book.
Philippines.
I saw the book recently. I saw.
His son, Mordechai Soroka, spent 20 years writing that book.
Yes.
And he'll be coming to Yerushalayim, and
Yeah.
so you knew the son as well.
Of course, my father was in business with Reb Shmuel, Reb Sammy Soroka. They had a venture together in Brighton Beach, and it didn't work out. There was also a Yitzchak Lerner, who was a bachelor for many, many years. He was also involved. I think he was a Shanghai as well, Yitzchak Lerner. Anyways, my parents were married.
And can I ask, when your parents were married, because they say Rabbi Shmuel Valkin, in his home, a lot of the Bochrim used to congregate in his home, and the Rebbetzin helped with a lot of the chasanas. And
I'm sure
he must have been there at the chasana as well.
We know the Rogovs, Rav Rogov, who was Ateres Mordechai. He was I think he was the Shatchan and the Rebbetzin Rogov, together with Reb Chaim, and they were all together. I think he was Reb Chaim Oizel's Shvaga, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember, but we had a connection with all of the mirrors. Some were living in Chicago, some in Iowa, and they came to America together, and they were helped by J.P. Teitz, Rav Pinchas Teitz, who was in Elizabeth, New Jersey. He was also a family friend and took care of a lot of the Alter Mirrors, getting them jobs. And the first job my father received was in Willimantic, Connecticut. He was a shochet and he was a rov there. And that's where myself and my two brothers were born, in Willimantic, Connecticut. And then subsequent to that, he got a stella in Brighton Beach, which is in Brooklyn, near the sea, near the Atlantic Ocean. And that's where most of the years he spent as a rov, prominent and well-known rov. But there's always a connection with Nevaradok, of course, and with the Alter Mirrors. I was in Belgium. I think it was 1978, and I was looking to leave. I had a yeshiva together with our cousin Reb Chaim Kreiswert, who was the Rov of Antwerpen, my mother's cousin, and I was there for approximately 2 years, and I was going to leave, and I had two offers. I had one offer to come to Springs here, which is a city outside of Johannesburg, and at the same time I had an offer to go to Curaçao. When I heard that there was an offer to go to Curaçao, I was very interested because
it's a Dutch colony. And
I have the paper, the original paper, how all of the Mirror Chevra, that was their final destination was Curaçao.
The entry visa. And that enabled them to stay in Shanghai because it wasn't a permanent destination. So the Hara could not have given the exit visa without an entry visa.
Yeah,
so the Curaçao
I have that paper.
The final destination visa.
Yes.
Was paramount. It was.
And I must say that when I went to speak to Rabbi Yankiv Kamenetsky, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, and I said, I want to know if the Rov halt, if the Rosh Yeshiva halt, that I can go to Curaçao. So he says, Curaçao? Wir sind doch alle gerettet geworden durch Curaçao. So doch leben Japan. So he didn't realize that it was on the tip of Venezuela in the Caribbean. But the connection of Shanghai, that Curacao was the end destination which enabled them to be in Shanghai. He didn't know. He thought it was near Japan, and he told me, "Dafstoma Parnosa," and Sachiyuv. He said to me, "Achiyuv af jeder junger Mann, an obligation, every young man like yourself, to go to such kihilis and to be marbitz Torah and to bring them back. Even if the kihila is mechalel Shabbos, it's important that you go to such a place and bring them closer to Yiddishkeit, L'Avinu Shabashamayim." Anyway, we went there. My wife and I, we went there for 2 years, and we did a lot of good work there. And it's interesting that desolate island, I always used to say, Za'ima Dorsheni. One has to appreciate and understand that island saved Jews in 2 times in our history. Number one, it saved Jews from the Spanish Inquisition. And the Dutch government allowed for Jews that escaped the Spanish Inquisition, that went to South America, to Suriname, which was also a Dutch colony, and then they went to Colombia, and they ended up, after the Inquisition caught up to them in Colombia and other places, so they came and they settled there. And here, during the war, the Second World War, Torah, the Olam HaTorah, was saved by all of the Mir Yeshiva and the different kvutzas that came with them by this island, allowing them the final destination to stay in Shanghai, China.
You didn't need a visa.
So I chose that to go there instead of coming to South Africa, and because I felt that my life, I was saved by that island. If not for that island, Curacao, then I wouldn't be alive. My father wouldn't have had his visa, and so I went to pay a debt. And up for 2 years we were there. It was difficult, but we succeeded in doing a lot of good work with the youth. And today some of them are Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and we worked with the communities there, with the community, the Orthodox community that's there.
Were you in Willemstad?
I was in Willemstad, yes.
That's the
That's
main
right, yes.
city.
And
is there a big kahila?
well,
Are there many Jews living there?
when I was there, when I came there in 1980, or the end of 79, I don't remember exactly, there were approximately 100 families in Shari Tzedek, it was called. Kehila Shari Tzedek. They had a shul in the old town, and like everywhere else, the Jews, after getting a certain parnosa and they became wealthy, they moved to the suburbs, but the shul was still there near the entrance to the island. Yeah, it was near the business, and that's where we lived. We lived there for 2 years.
So what was the total population of the Jewish community?
The total population was less than 100 families. Maybe and unfortunately quite a few assimilated they were mostly Romanian Jews.
Not Dutch?
No, Basarabia. There was 1 or 2 Dutch people that came from Holland that were there, but most of the Jews were Basarabia, from Romania, and they came in 1929, in those years. And it was a very difficult time, but they had to escape also from Romania and Poland. It was part of Poland, and they came and they settled and they built themselves up. But there were also Spanish, Portuguese Jews from after 1492.
They'd remained.
They remained, and they built up, and unfortunately their community, they built a mikveh. And it was the earliest Orthodox shul in the Western Hemisphere. They had a mikveh, they had a shul, a
Was this
beautiful
before,
shul.
even earlier than Suriname?
It's at the same time as Suriname. Suriname, there's nothing left in Suriname except a shell of a shul.
Is there still
And when
Yidden
they-
living in Suriname?
No.
Today there's no
They
Yidden
came to
there.
Curaçao, and Curaçao built up. The banking industry and the slave trade was run through Jewish people and very famous families, Capriles families, Maduro. But unfortunately, 20 years, 30 years before we came, their shul, which is similar to the Spanish-Portuguese shul with sand on the floors with beautiful woodwork and chandeliers, there was a mikveh there. They became Reformed Reconstructionists. So there was mass assimilation, and
There is a replica of the shul. Not a replica, they actually
Yeah.
took one of the shuls. It's not a replica, it's the original shul
Yes.
in the Israel Museum in Yerushalayim.
yes, we know.
With the sand
It's still
and,
there. The sand,
you know,
yes, I
So
know.
it's a they actually
Yeah,
took
and
it.
this is a smaller version
Yeah.
of the same Spanish Portuguese that one finds in Amsterdam. In any case, it was a wonderful time. It was a time for us to escape. We had a parnosa there, and we did a lot of good work. My father-in-law, who's Rav Roshi of Rishon LeZion and Rav Volpo, he's the chief rabbi of Rishon LeZion, and he's a Yerushalayim, a family of 6-7 generations. My wife is the 7th generation Yerushalayim. The Einikel of Rabbi Tzion Yadla, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, and the Tiferes Tzion, he came also to the island, and he gave shiurim, and he spoke, and he made farbrengens, it was, and it left its mark. But we needed chinuch for our children, and we went back to Eretz Yisrael for a while. And a few years after that, I had a position available here I had a position here